Alright guys, I am going to use this screencast to teach you about our next assignment, which is to make your own color wheel. We will be using oil pastels, which is probably new to a lot of you. So I will teach you how to use those and how to correctly fill in each space of the color wheel. So this is one that I have done already. So there are shades, there are tones, there are tints, and I also have a spot for the complementary colors, but we might be doing this a little bit differently. But this is approximately what yours should look like when you're done. Okay, so the first thing you want to do before you even get started is make sure that you have every color laid out. So you are going to work your way around. So you might want to pause this video, make sure you have your color wheel template all set up so that you can just do this along with me. Pause if you need to. Okay, and you can start anywhere you want. It doesn't really matter. So if you start with red, think of like the rainbow. After red, there's red, orange. So write it out if you're not going to remember what RO means. And you have orange, yellow, orange, yellow, yellow, green, green, blue, green, blue, blue, violet, or blue, purple, violet, and then red, violet, which should take you right around to red. Okay, so if you come around and you have a weird color next to your starter red, then you mislabeled something. So go back and make sure you correct that. Okay. The next thing you want to do is you want to lay out where your tints, tones, and shades are going to go. So you can sort of see it in this video, but if I lift it up, you'll probably see it better. If you look through the paper, you should be able to see little rings like a target. Okay, that's going to serve as your guide for where you switch values and do lighter and darker versions of each color. So you, if you can see through it, which you should be able to, just kind of lightly with your pencil trace each one so that you're not having to struggle out to see it the whole time. Okay, it does not have to be perfect at all. Do your best though, so it's not completely sloppy. Okay. Alright, so once you've done that, you can do this straightforward and simple, the way it's laid out, similar to this, where you just use the shapes as they're made to fill them in. If you want to be more creative, you could, make it a wavy edge or something if you wanted to be more creative with it. That is completely up to you. It is not required. It just, if it makes it more fun for you, then go for it. Okay, you can make these all into weird little points, or you can change it up every time. But don't spend forever on this, because this is really a skill building assignment, learning how to use oil pastels and how to mix colors. So don't get too overboard or crazy with it. Okay, so as far as using oil pastels, this is what a pack looks like. Unfortunately, a lot of the packs are not kept in neat little boxes because people put things away like maniacs. So we're going to have to work with what we have, and you might have to search for colors occasionally. But they're basically like crayons that are oilier, so they blend together better. That's why they're called oil pastels. Okay? And it is up to you. You can also personalize. You're having, I'll write it up here so you can see it, tints, tones, shades, and then you're going to have your pure hue. Okay, that's what the 4 sections are for. Okay, your pure hue is what you color straight out with, very bright, bold color. Okay, tints is plus white, tones are plus gray or brown, so a neutral color, and shades are plus black. Okay. This is all on the board, so I'm just writing it down and telling you so you hear it, as well as you can see it on our front board anyways. So, and you can do this whenever order you want. You can do pure color, tints, tones, shades. I don't care what order you do them in. I like things to fade nicely. So I'm going to do the outside with the pure color. And then I'm going to do dark, medium, light. So shades, tones, tints. But the order you do them in is completely up to you. Again, this is a skill building project, so I'm not going to fret about you guys all doing things exactly the same as long as you're doing your best. So, pure hue, that's simple. You're just coloring. You're filling the box. These are kind of thick, so it's hard to be precise, but that's part of what I want you to practice, is staying inside the lines. Ooh, just broke it. And filling the box evenly. I broke it because I'm pressing hard, because if you color lightly, I'll show you down here. Okay, it's very streaky. You can see the white paper through it. It's not very neat, but if you color hard, you'll get a nice, rich color, and it actually can mimic the look of paint. People who use oil pastels well some people can't tell the difference between oil pastel drawing and a painting because it is a very thick, rich color and it covers the paper completely. Okay, so there's my pure hue with orange. Okay, moving on to shades, and take notes if you need to, but I do have notes on the board. Okay, so when you're doing shades, you want to start with your dark color. Okay, so you're starting with black and you are putting down a very, very light coat of black. Okay, as light as you can go. Then you are taking your color that you're making a shade with, so we're working with orange, and I'm sort of moving my hand in a circular motion because by doing that I'm actually taking the black that's on the paper and I'm mixing it into the orange as it's going down. Okay, you're probably going to have some streaks and some inconsistent areas, but your goal is to make this as smooth of a shade as possible. So that's the one thing about oil pastels that's nice, is they layer on top of each other really well. So you can see I have some areas that are darker and lighter than others, so I'm just going to go back on top as light as I can, kind of filling in those gaps. I'm hitting the areas a little more that had less black on them to begin with. Okay. And now I'm pressing a little lighter. I don't want to pull the color around too much. And you should experiment with this, how hard to press. So start pressing light, and if you're not getting the pull of the colors and the mixing like you want, then you can press a little harder. But once you have a lot of layers, if you press too hard, you're going to actually like pull a lot of color away. Okay? Do your best. Don't spend forever trying to perfect any one area, because then you will never finish. So do your best to make it semi-consistent like it is here, and if you have time when this project is over, if you finish a day early, then you can go through and really try and make them perfect. Okay, so now tones. Tones is a similar idea as shades. So you're going to start with your neutral, which is a gray or a brown, depending on what you can find and what you have available. So I'm going to go with a brown. Okay, same idea. You want to consistently fill up the space, but very lightly. You can always add more. You don't want to add so much that it looks like I'm using brown. Okay, and then I'm mixing my orange into it. Your tones should look pretty similar to the natural hue, just maybe not as bright. So you're toning it down. That's why it's called a tone. Okay. Your pure hue should be pretty bright and intense. This is just a little less intense. I don't know if you can tell on the camera or not. And again, if it's not enough, if you want a little too light with your brown or your gray, you can always do a second coat and just work it until it makes sense. Okay. Tints are a little bit different. Instead of starting with your separate color, oh no, I don't think, oh there it is, okay, good. Instead of starting with the color you're mixing in, you're going to start with orange. Okay, so I'm going to fill this box with orange, just like I did for the pure hue. And this time I'm pressing really hard on top with the white, and I'm using the white to be sort of my mixer color. And stay inside the lines the best you can. Okay. So that is one section complete. You are going to have these little like flecks that come off. I like to kind of flick the paper from behind and that gets them off. That way I don't wipe them and smear them. Okay, every now and then you do have to wipe them. But so that's one section complete. Pure hue, shade, tone, tint. I suggest that once you pick an order, you stick with it so it just looks nice and organized. But again, as long as you have each section filled in, that's fine with me. So you're going to work your way around like that. I'm not going to do this whole video fill in the whole thing because you'd go nuts. But I do want you to note a couple things. Yellow is a very light color. So let me do my shade area with yellow. You want to be especially kind of hesitant with the black with yellow, because it makes a big impact. So if it comes out looking almost like a weird pukey green when you start to mix them, that's what's supposed to happen. So that's not a very pleasant color, but that is a shade of a yellow. So don't panic and think you did something wrong when you get this really weird, ugly color coming out. And something also to take note of is these oil pastels, because they are so sort of sticky, it'll pick up, see how it picked up that black? So you don't want to take something like this, it's all messy, and go into a tint area or a pure hue area. So you can get some scrap paper and just sort of scribble off any area that's covered with black, so you have a nice clean side to work with. So make sure you're checking out your oil pastels before you put them on paper, because you don't want to have a almost perfect, nice finished design and then you go into it with a dirty pastel. Okay. So you can see how right there I left a little black on there. It's inevitable, you're going to have some streaks in some areas, but you are doing your best to learn to control it and to learn to anticipate it and fix those issues before they happen. Okay, so that is your assignment. This should only take a couple days, so I don't want you guys to do one box a day thinking that's enough. So you should shoot for maybe doing, you know, a third or half of it per class period, so that we can move on to our more creative assignments. This is a skill builder, so do your best to develop the skills in this project so you can carry them into the next one. Whenever you have questions, let me know, but otherwise this video is finished and you guys can just refer to it if you need to as you move through this assignment.